Let's face it, if you've accomplished something fantastic, it was likely something you had been striving for your entire life. You'd probably embark on some type of crazy celebration and party until the sun comes up. Well, some NHLians have a reputation for going beyond with their Stanley Cup celebrations. Thus, in this video, we'll look at 10 of the most outrageous Stanley Cup celebrations ever. The strip clubs are loved by Mark Messier. You did hear me right. The Stanley Cup was brought by Mark Messier and his squad to a strip club for a celebration. Messier did not only perform this once, in fact, he did it twice. The first time with the Oilers in 1987 and the second time with the Rangers in 1994, since he enjoyed it so much the first time. Once the Oilers and Messier had won the championship, they crossed the street to the Forum, set the trophy on stage, and left it there all night for the dancers to use as a prop. If I ever had the chance, I kind of want to avoid touching the cup because of that. I don't know about you. Afterward, Messier and the Rangers took the trophy to a gentleman's club named Scores once more in 1994. The club was actually run by mob informant Michael Bluetrick, who also helped the federal government bring down notorious mob figures like John Gotti Jr. In a 60-minute interview with Anderson Cooper, Bluetrick talked about Messier and the Rangers' visit to his club. On the night they won the Stanley Cup, he claimed the New York Rangers arrived to celebrate, filled the cup with champagne, and shared it with everyone before leaving. After getting intoxicated, they abandoned the cup. Can you imagine being so inebriated that you leave the Stanley Cup in a strip club? Hot dog party for Phil Kessel. Compared to the last one, this one is slightly more disgusting. Kessel's bad eating habits are well known across the league, but he earned this reputation by managing to remain one of the league's top 6 forwards despite behaving in an unhealthy manner. Phil chose to take the Stanley Cup to a golf course and fill it with hot dogs after the Penguins won their second Stanley Cup under his leadership. How the league has changed. In the 1980s and 1990s, strippers would dance all over the championship trophy, and in 2017, Phil Kessel would stuff it with hot dog meat. I hope Kessel finds himself with a fresh cup so he can give us another embarrassing hot dog in the cup incident. Toronto Maple Leafs bonfire. Since the Leafs haven't been close to winning the championship in such a long time, let's have a look at their celebration and bring back the memories of good times. In order to celebrate their Stanley Cup victory in 1962, the Toronto Maple Leafs built a bonfire as a team. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It just sounds like a wonderful time for team bonding. That is, until the group decided to put the cup directly into the fire, severely damaging it and forcing them to foot the bill for repairs out of their own pocket. You see how you abuse a Stanley Cup, and you forever curse your team. Actually, the Leafs won the cup 3 more times during that decade, so maybe they should start setting more things on fire to find their rhythm again. Toileting in the Stanley Cup. Chris Draper felt it would be so cute to pose his newborn baby in the Stanley Cup for a cute photo opportunity after the Detroit Red Wings won the Stanley Cup in 2008. Since that is a memory that will last a lifetime, I can't really blame him. Although it won't be valued for its charm, it will undoubtedly last a lifetime. Nature regrettably intervened and poop fell into the Stanley Cup, which was bad news for baby Draper. You have to feel horrible for everyone who drank from that cup later, even if it's clear that she's a baby and this mishap was unavoidable. The Boston Bruins bar tab. While celebrating a Stanley Cup victory, it's somewhat of anticipated that things will get out of hand. But the 2011 Boston Bruins took their celebrations to an all-new level. The crew went to a nightclub with the trophy the weekend they won and celebrated there for 4 solid hours. Although it might not seem like much, 4 hours of non-stop drinking by the whole Boston Bruins squad could get out of hand, especially when it came to their bill. According to reports, they caused damage to the bar totaling $156,679.74, which included a $24,869.80 tip for their waitress. Howard Stern and Claude Lemieux's practical joke. When the Devils won the Stanley Cup in 1995, Claude Lemieux certainly played up to his image as a bit of a prankster. Interacting live on air with Howard Stern and his crew, the Stanley Cup was brought into the show by Claude Lemieux, and Stern and his co-host went on to pretend to go to the toilet in the cup as it was airing. much like Draper's newborn baby. For Stern listeners, this was perfectly on brand. But NHL and Devils fans did not take the joke well, and things became quite hot over it. The Stanley Cup is at war. Cup keeper Mike Bolt traveled to Afghanistan in 2007 with the Stanley Cup to visit the military. The troops were thrilled to see the cup when he landed, and everyone posed for pictures next to it. After a time, though, Cup keeper Mike Bolt took a break and went to the showers to wash up. As alarms began to sound while he was changing, Bolt stayed in his room, sitting on the cupcakes until things calmed down. Bolt regarded this as being standard procedure. The base was actually being attacked. Fortunately, the cup and he managed to escape this incident unharmed, even though it wasn't a simulation. Here's what he had to say about it later on. I get back to the barracks and hear an air raid siren, but I was dying for a shower. So I figured I'd just sit tight. I got into my room, true story, sat down on the cupcakes and read Maxim. I swear I go into the shower, and when I get out, a bunch of guys are around going, "Mike, where were you during the missile attack?" I told him, sitting on the cupcakes reading Maxim, and they said, "Holy crap, you're dedicated to your job." Truth be told, if I had known better, I would have ditched the cup and been like George Costanza pushing women and children out of the way. In the Rideau Canal, the Ottawa Silver Seven, who won the Stanley Cup in 1905, celebrated in a unique fashion that set them apart from other teams. After going to a pub and getting drunk, forward Harry Smith was daredevil enough to drop-kick the Stanley Cup in the Rideau Canal. The Ottawa Silver Seven, who won the Stanley Cup in 1905, celebrated in a unique fashion that set them apart from other teams. After going to a pub and getting drunk, forward Harry Smith was daredevil enough to drop-kick the Stanley Cup into the Rideau Canal. These guys sound like complete degenerates. If you're not familiar with the Rideau Canal, it connects the Ottawa River with Lake Ontario. Usually, in the winter, when it freezes over, people come out to skate on it. But it wasn't the winter when Harry Smith drop-booted the Stanley Cup into a river. Topping it off, they simply left it there, and Smith had to return to the next state to find the cup washed up on the side of the canal. Baptisms with the Stanley Cup. I had no idea that this was a thing, but it apparently happened frequently. Sylvain Laflamme of the Colorado Avalanche was the first athlete to utilize the Stanley Cup as a baptismal font for his daughter in 1996. Then, in 2008, Detroit Red Wings player Thomas Holmstrom brought the trophy all the way to Sweden for the baptism of his cousin's daughter. And it goes beyond that. Josh Archibald Fall, a Pittsburgh Penguin, followed suit in 2017 and christened his son in the cup as well. Then, in 2022, after the Avalanche won the championship, Jack Johnson outdid everyone else by taking all three of his children to get baptized in the Stanley Cup. Ray Bourque is back in Boston. This one might make you cry. Bourque spent several years playing in a Bruins jersey at the twilight of his career and eventually found himself competing for a cup in Colorado. Bourque's first year with the Avalanche saw the team fall short in the conference finals. But the following year, Bourque and the squad fought back to win the Stanley Cup in 2000-2001. Rather than celebrating with the cup at home or at a local bar with friends and family, Bourque, being a gentleman that he is, decided to bring the cup to Boston and rejoice with his old fan base. It was a magnificent moment in sports history when 20,000 Bruins supporters gathered to rejoice with Bourque. That's how important Boston was to him, and how important he was to the Boston franchise. Bourque eventually retired the cup after winning it and rejoicing with the fan base that had supported them for years. So this is all for today. I hope you liked the video. If so, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss any update from us.